You're listening to Funk with Fate, a show about being a body and cultivating pleasurable relationships with everything. And I'm your host, Mackenzie McCormick. This podcast will explore how our embodied experiences connect us to the world through astrology, philosophy, dance, magic, and anything that invigorates our aliveness. What makes us feel the most alive? Big inhale, big exhale. Now let's get grooving. Hello, hottie, and welcome to the show. Right now it is 7:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, April 13th, 2023. And right now in my location, Libra is rising and it is right at sunset. So Jupiter and the sun are on the descendant. So today we are talking about tattoos, and I'm so honored to have John and Christa with me. Please introduce yourselves. Let everybody know who you are, what your practice feels like, looks like, anything you wish to share with us.
John, do you want to go first, or?
I mean, if Yoon says.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, boo.
Hello, everybody. I'm John, or Astrolojohn on the internet. I am a practicing, at this point, I describe myself as a Jyotishi first and then a Hellenistic astrologer second at this point in my practice. My astrology is rooted in Hellenistic techniques, but over the past few years, I've been studying Jyotish, and that has become my main practice in a way. My big three, I guess, is, do people do that?
Yeah, if you want to. I sometimes share chart info, so you can do big three if you're comfortable with that, or anything that you wish.
I'm okay. My ascendant, tropically, my ascendant is Gemini, ruled by Mercury in Scorpio. My sun is in Scorpio as well, and my moon is in Aquarius.
Love that for you.
I don't love it for me, but I'm glad you do.
No, I love your energy always. It's great. Hi, I'm Christa, Christa Lay. I am a relational astrologer. That term I borrowed from both Palace and Diana Rose Harper. And I first and foremost kind of see myself as a relational astrologer, kind of wanting to, I work with a lot of creatives and like queer people and people who are like me. So that's a lot of my clientele. I actually run like a tattoo and astrology collaboration. So great to talk on this. I did a talk for QAC recently about it. And yeah, a lot of my practice is rooted in Hellenistic techniques and some medieval timing techniques. But it's really first and foremost, like a lot of the clients I get are people who are, like astrology is queer currency at times. And so I'm like, I like to teach a lot of the people. Yeah, no, it really is. The first thing, like people, especially when they find out I'm an astrologer, it's a great party trick, is like, people always are like, guess my sign. And I'm like, well, number one, I'm probably not going to guess your sun sign because your ascendant or your midheaven are going to scream at me. Like there are different planets that scream at me that are like, show me. So a lot of my practice is based off of like, just how it's also, I'm like a death worker as well. And so it's like, how can we live and what tools can I give you that are in the birth chart that are going to, and like what's happening now in the world to empower people to kind of live their best lives and like get to know themselves better, be in relation with other people better, and like the spirits and also the earth and like everything around them. So that's kind of my practice. And not going to share my chart info because I'm pretty secretive about that. But I will share like my big three. I'm like, I've shared it on socials before, but I'm like, only for one day and never again. I'm a Leo rising, and this is all tropical as well. Leo rising, Libra sun, and Scorpio moon, and it's that Scorpio moon that's like, don't perceive me.
I'm with you, and I feel it.
I was like, but notice me because I'm cute.
Also feel that.
Yeah.
Me, Deja, Zach, and Jared have like a group chat, and the other day Zach was like, "Don, like, what is your chart again?" And I make the joke that it's because of my sidereal fallen sun that like they never remember what my chart is. I'm literally just like, do not look at me.
Yeah. Bye.
Love it. Thank you both so much for sharing. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're talking about tattoos today. So I feel like if anybody is listening to this podcast right now, they probably know what the hell a tattoo is. But for anybody who doesn't, maybe you're brand new here. Maybe you're brand
to this
new
planet.
here. Maybe you're brand new to knowing that people modify their bodies artistically. What a concept. But truly that would be brand new because it goes back thousands and thousands of years, which is so amazing that I feel like we see so much innovation and yet so much growth in something that is still so old, which is like astrology in so many ways, that it is such an ancient art that has continued to live on and evolve through time.
For sure. And I also think like, it's funny that we talk about tattoos as body modification, but it's, and art, but it was also like for a lot of cultures, it was like an initiation to something. The Kalinga tribe in the Philippines, like Wang Od is like, she's very famous if you haven't heard of her, but she's this very famous, probably the last elder of the Kalinga tribe. And she's also teaching a bunch of, usually you pass the tradition down from, from an elder to child, but she didn't have any children because she spent her life really like dedicated to tattooing, and she does like hand pokes. She makes her own needle and then she like hand pokes, but like that original practice for a lot of tribes in the Philippines was a lot of it was to commemorate the kills and like the head, the tattooing the headhunters, and it was also like an initiation kind of into like this hunting practice, right? And to celebrate. So I think like we think of it as like body modification and like more aesthetic, but it really is also like an initiation into things, and also to count it's like really like, oh, like I don't have like a fucking cave to draw, I'm just gonna like tattoo it on my body to make sure that I and I'm sure there are other different reasons, but it is interesting for myself anyway, that was, even though I'm not like culturally, that is not my tribe from the Philippines, it is still like my motherland, like I'm Filipino. And it is something that like it was important for me to like learn about. And I think each different culture has their own reason for tattooing and starting to tattoo, but it's like not just body modification, which I think is for like art, which I think is like really cool. And I don't think we think a lot about that now because it is like, it's pretty, like look at all my body art,
Yeah, I think there's also so much to like in many cultures, tattooing is a form of storytelling and like commemorating and honoring things. And I think about how like even those of us with like we all have like dumb tattoos. Like I have like a juice box on my leg. Like why? Who knows? But I can tell you exactly. Like we all tattoo dumb shit on ourselves. Like let's be real. And like while there's not like a reason, I can tell you in that period of my life, like this is what was going on. Like not only is it just a juice box, it is like I was really close to these two people at this time and we all got this tattoo, and like that, like there's stories in them, even though if they're not inherently like I got a wolf tattoo because my grandfather, like no one cares, Bob.
On the flip side, oh no, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Oh, I was gonna say on the flip side, like sometimes you just want pretty shit on your body.
Stupid shit, yeah.
You want stupid shit on your body, and there doesn't have to be a reason. And it's just funny that like people are like, "What's your favorite tattoo?" I'm like, they're like, I can't pick one. I can't pick one. I have so many beautiful ones, and also like for me, it's also like a form of like personally, as someone with chronic illness, it has been a gauge for my pain because tattoos friggin' hurt. Like
for sure.
You can't get tattoos unless you deal with the pain. And for me, it's like with my chronic illness, it's been kind of an attunement to like, what kind of pain can I handle? Like if I can handle this, I can handle a shit ton of other stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. Interestingly, something you said about how people will ask what your favorite tattoo is kind of begs the question of like, where does one stop and one begin? Because there's not always such clean lines between them. There's not always so obvious. And then if somebody comes to you and they're like, well, how many tattoos do you have? And you're like, well, do you really want me to like keep is that something you expect me to keep track of as this almost like a body count or something? Yeah. And meanwhile, it's like they all end up just being on one body. And so they can all really represent different things, or maybe nothing at all, but they're all still coming together on your one body and it's all telling a story together.
Well, it also becomes cohesive after a while, right? Like that's the idea of like, you know how like they have cover-ups, and like that's a thing because it's like, oh, I don't want to like get laser or remove it, so I'll just, you know, cover it up. And then there's also like from cover-ups there's blastovers now. And blastovers, like, you know, I have this one and it was like my dog, and it just the tattoo itself, like you can see my dog through this blastover, but it's like sometimes like how does that count as a tattoo? Like these are not two separate tattoos, they are now a part of each other. And you also, and good artists will do this for you, right? Like good artists are going to consider the placements of the tattoos and what works for you, and like because they, you know, like artists want to like make sure that it's all cohesive. They want to make sure, well, good artists, the artists that I work with I really love, because they consider every single placement, even if it's like so small, like these, you know, these lemons, like this lemon and orange, or yeah, no, it's a lemon. It could have been anywhere, right? But I'm like, it's just so nicely nestled in between these two. Yeah. And so I'm like, a good artist is going to consider those things as well. So it is like, it is kind of like this collaboration, you know, like if you go to different artists, it turns into like unintended collaboration between those artists, kind of like at time and space and distance, but also you and the artists. So that's what I think anyway.
I love that. Absolutely. And that collaboration really speaks to how all of the different ideas really then flow, which probably, you know, historically, we go to the tattoo shop now and it's like you and an artist, but especially if it was an initiation of sort, how you were speaking of, and it's a greater cultural communal event, there are more people involved. It's more of this event as opposed to maybe now, like, you know, very casually on like Friday the 13th or something, you're like, I'm just going to hop, skip and jump in and slide in, slide out, get some ink done. And it can be very casual in that way, but it can also be on the very other end of the spectrum, like so very ceremonial.
But I think that's what's beautiful about it, right? Like different people and different cultures have their own kind of ways to go about it. I mean, like that's one of the beautiful things about like the collaboration I do with my work wife, I call her Celeste, which is like cosmic catharsis, is that like it used to be a little more formal in that like I would go in and read and then she would think of something right after, but it's turned into more of like I'll do the reading, take what's, you know, like, and also like we really like when we take these like collaborations, we really urge people to like actually have something they want to talk about, because this is one of those things that we don't take that many people, and it's like you should really like want like kind of the medicine. And we can also talk about like tattooings as talismans later too, but like it begs like you're going through something, here's a way, like it's not remediation, right? Because I can't elect a time, like it really depends on like what my collaborator schedule is, but there is this like energy and like storytelling, what John said, of like how can I use the medicine from the chart and the transits to address it through a narrative and through storytelling to make sure that like you come out of this situation feeling more confident. And so that's kind of like an intermediary for me tattoo wise, in like that, like it is sacred, and like it is sacred to the person getting it and like the collaborators in it involved, but it is not like a whole ceremonial thing, because I mean like in different cultures, I mean like the Polynesian culture and like Tabori tattoos, it's like hand poked and like it's painstakingly hand poked, and also like they have like apprentices with them, so there's like more than it's more involved than just the intimacy of like you and the artist, which you have to also inherently trust your artist as someone who's getting tattooed as a consumer. And I think like we don't talk about that. It's all, like I said, I'm a relational person, so I always think about relationships and like thinking about the relationships between like my tattoos and like the tattooers who made them. So
oh, that's a big thing, especially when you have different tattoos done by different artists, you know, when you were in different places in your life, and all of the like essentially how those relationships developed, and how then you like look back on the experience and the tattoo like with that hindsight afterwards, and how all of those and just how all of it went really. So this has me actually, you mentioned your Christa, you mentioned the collaboration that you do, and John, I wanted to ask you about that, and John, I also wanted to ask you about the Inked for the Gods that you did, so that you could talk about that as well.
Oh, that was I did a very informal, I don't even want to call it a talk. I talked for 5 minutes on Zoom, really stoned, about my tattoos and electing tattoos, and doing tattoos as like not necessarily talismans, because I think there is like a talisman is like a very specific process that needs to be undergone, but there is so much like propitiation to specific deities and so much work that you can do by like taking valuable, like I think a lot about the idea of mantra, and like why mantra is so special is because you are taking time out of your day to like honor and propitiate these entities, right? And so like what is more valuable than like literally your own body to like devote something to something bigger than yourself? Like it can be such a powerful remediatory, connective, like just a way to tap into the divine that is unlike any other, basically.
No, John, that's beautiful. And I also think like within certain lineages too, of like they're like, if you go to Thailand and like anywhere with like a pretty strong Buddhist culture, there are like monks and ajarns who will tattoo you.
Mhm.
And that is considered a talisman, because they're especially the Thai occult, like, oh my God.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've heard of like Peter Jenks runs the Thai occult, and he will connect and also has like a guide of like ajarns who are like proficient in like also like astrology.
Mm.
And then we'll do your chart and then do a remediary tattoo based off of that. And I think those are beautiful. Obviously, like you have to, I don't know if they elect it, because like you're going on a day and they're like, well, this is the elected chart of it.
Mhm.
But they do take a lot of it into consideration, and like it's hand poked, and like, you know, like you will see like it is magic. It is
It's
a magic.
magic, yeah.
It's magic. It's talismanic magic. And
Yes.
I think like, John, what you're right, it's like sometimes it's not a talisman. And like for me, you know, like in my collaboration, like it is a sort of talisman, but it's not the way that we think of like formal astrological magic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but there is this kind of magic put into it.
Mhm.
Because like I am considering like elements of the chart and like
Mhm.
elements of this stuff, but there is a difference for sure between like a very formal astrological like talisman and like magical talisman and electing those times, which is kind of impossible, you know what I mean? Like, but also the thing with elections is, right, like you're picking the best time that like out of all the choices that you have,
Mhm.
right? It's not
Within
like
reason.
within reason. Like I can't
Mhm.
just elect, like if it were up to me, yeah, I would love to elect my tattoos, but I'm like, other than that, like now that I've been a consumer for years, it's like I'm just gonna take what I'm given, because I'm like, it's gonna turn out the same way anyway. Like hopefully, like the worst that can happen is like, oh, my tattoo gets infected, or like,
Mhm.
you know, like it's just stuff that you have to consider as a consumer. But if you're like a first timer, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I can
yeah.
understand like the urgency, excuse me, and the hesitancy between
Mhm.
like booking. But
And like
if you're
I think there's a difference between like electing and
Mhm.
focusing on not necessarily a simpler tattoo, but a tattoo that has no magical spiritual meaning to it. Like my juice
Yes.
box. It's a
Yeah.
Doja Cat, like it's a reference to Doja Cat's Juicy. No like intentional magic done there, right? But like my Venus tattoo on my forearm, like that, I wanted to make sure that like Venus was in a good position and et cetera, et cetera. And so like I don't even elect all of if my tattoos are just like simple things that I'm like, I'm getting a knife. Like I'm getting a knife I'm getting a knife on the day of the Aries eclipse, which is I think is
Oh, that's
hilarious. It just
hilarious.
turned out that way because my friend made the appointments. Getting a knife. Funny that it worked out that way, but like it's not for Mars, so I wasn't like,
Yeah.
it just turned out that it's gonna happen when the moon is conjoined to Jupiter in the 9th.
And knives are very Mars.
And knives are Mars.
So that just works out that way, which kind of to me begs the question of, even though you have, like for say, like example, like juice box all the way to Venus, that kind of begs the question of like the spectrum of talismans as tattoos, and how we can go so far to very intentionally elect it, which is, as you were saying, very hard to do in today's day and age.
So
like if you have never booked with a super successful, well liked tattoo artist, baby, you don't know the struggle, because they are booked out so far and you have to work so many things around in your schedule to get on their books. And it can really be a bitch of a time. And so the likelihood of actually being able to elect something with someone that you really like is like not that great. And so you have to
unless you are electing very far in advance.
But
even then,
do they book that far?
Even that, yeah, exactly.
Even then it's really hard, because they'll be like, like for the collaboration that I do with my friend Celeste, it's like we only have 3 spots we book quarterly, and we only have 3 spots, like 1 spot for each month. And it's also like, so I'll do my readings on my office hour days, and then she'll do her tattoos on like certain days, and like some of those days don't match up. Like she doesn't work on weekends, so it's like if you wanted to get a tattoo on a weekend, not happening. And then it's also like you have to match people's schedules. There's just like a whole, like if you've never booked with a really like popular artist, like I guess you could elect it if you like went into a walk-in shop, but even then it's like, if you want something that important, like are you just really gonna walk in for that? Yeah, I don't know. We're all different consumers, you know what I mean? Some people wanna be like, I'm gonna get a fun tattoo, so elections are really hard. And I think for me personally, it's like I more consider like the feeling of it, and like the relationship between it, and also like if it turns out to be a great astrological date, like great for me, like I love that. I do try to get, I am kind of like maybe I'm just like a masochist here, sadist masochist here, but I try to get mine on Mars days. I love getting my tattoos on Mars days. Does it hurt more? I don't know, because I've gotten so many, but yeah, I like getting mine on Mars days. I feel like it's, I'm a very 3rd house person, and I think like I do boxing on Tuesdays. I also do boxing on Thursdays. Also very martial. But I'm like, I like it as a way for me to be like, I'm gonna get my tattoo for Mars. Like it's a Mars thing. Like stick me with needles, buddy. Like I'm gonna do it for you, baby. So,
I definitely relate to that. I've only been tattooed on Mars days a couple times, but I resonate with that like feeling of all of them, regardless of what they are, kind of being for Mars.
I don't think I've ever gotten a tattoo on a Tuesday.
Really?
Wow.
I mean, maybe like one of my first ones. I don't remember, but I don't think so.
And so that just like, even if you don't elect it, even if it has to be whenever the schedule is, in some ways it is almost an accidental talisman. It makes me think, because even if you didn't elect it, even if there wasn't like, even if it's just like a juice box or like a little fucking squirty water gun or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Like it still is a moment, and it has a chart, and it has its place on your body for as long as your skin decides to skin, and it's, I don't know, I think that there's something so special about that. Even if it's so random, it's still special in its own way, even, and scale that up all the way to the elected super special ones, and that just feels so rad.
And I also want to point out that it's not just your skin, right? Because if it was just like, the skin turns over so often, the ink goes right beneath the skin and it stays there. And it's funny because like our bodies, I also have a hard science background. So like our bodies are super cool in that like there are also like certain inks you have to consider in your body. And like if you like color inks, like you also have to be careful of like sometimes red inks can like make people like allergic, and like it's such a lunar experience too. I'm a night sect person, so I'm like, I think of my tattoos as like it's such a lunar experience because I'm also gauging what my body feels like in the experience. It's for Mars because of all the needles. like
I mean, and
very,
we all have the moon in malefic
yeah.
sign. So like
Oh,
we're like
yep.
pain me, babes.
Pain me,
Give me
babes.
pain. I love it. And I have
I
a
think,
martial moon, so
yeah.
it's like
I think that really does speak to the like very lunar yet malefic nature of tattoos. Of course, we could always be like every planet has a say, which they do to some extent, but there's something so lunar and like malefic because it's literal stabbing. It's like a literal stabbing of the skin. You're getting a wound. It's going to be a scar that you're going to have forever. And it's doing it to like the most sacred thing that you have, like essentially the only thing that you really have at the end of the day.
Ooh.
And all be all is your body.
Preach, girl.
Like that kind of fucks me when I think about it too hard.
I'm like, it's so funny though, because it's like your body is also trying to fight against and eat, like it's trying to eat the ink and it cannot because the ink particles are too big. And so it's like
too big.
It's too big. And so that's why your tattoos stay considerably fine forever, you know? And that's also like a Saturn thing too, of like the longevity of the tattoos. And I also think Jupiter's in there, especially if we talk about like passing these traditions down and like, you know, like when you think of, I don't think it's as common now, especially because like a lot of people are learning to tattoo from home and like stick and pokes and stuff. But there is also this whole like lineage, right? There is a lineage that goes back far enough, and like your tattoo artist has learned from someone, has apprenticed for someone, before they can like set their wings and like fly on their own, you know? And there's something beautiful. I mean, like the tattoo industry in general, like I work out of a tattoo studio as an astrologer, and like I'm very lucky, but I've also seen, you know, and if you talk to your artists a lot, right, you'll learn like kind of how toxic the industry can be at times. But I also think there is something beautiful about like this passing this knowledge down from one another, and like it's kind of beautiful to think about that, because it's like, oh, the way that like these technical things I'm learning from this person to make art, now I have a new way to figure it out. And then there's also the whole like, if it's an actual talismanic tattoo, then hello. It's just beautiful, you know, like I love tattoos. I love being able to learn about them and kind of experience it in my body. But yeah, they are very malefic. It is very a malefic lunar experience, I think.
The Jupiter thing is really kind of tripping me out right now, because I'm thinking about how whenever certain apprentices come from artists and they like stay in the same shop, you'll almost have artists and their apprentices and maybe even entire shops that have a very specific aesthetic. And it's very telltale who did it, or like the group of people that maybe did it, because they all learned and they all essentially shared the same tricks. Because not everybody is going to get every trick down pat. You know, there are some artists that don't do colors, some that only do certain styles. And so you really have like very obvious signatures that come off of those lineages.
The planetary correspondences in Geotish, Rahu is tattoos, which I think is so interesting because it connects to the moon, and that it's like the north node of the moon. So it is connecting this like lunar experiential element, while also identifying like the pain and like the suffering that comes in with tattoos. Is like that's Rahu. He's about pain and suffering, and like on a literal level, like he darkens the moon, like he darkens the physical surface with ink, is like what makes like when we talked about it in my class, freedom was literally just like Rahu is tattoos, and then we moved on. And so he didn't like explain it. I know, but I was like, oh yeah, he physically is darkening the body of the moon. Like you cannot see it because of Rahu. So that's what always like now I like it. I not exclusively, but like I'm like, yeah, Rahu's tattoos.
That makes sense.
It's such a literal interpretation. I love that.
I mean, if I believed in the nodes, I joke about this all the time. I'm like, I don't see the nodes. I pretend I do not see them. And it's because fucking I have like my benefic out of sect fallen at the bendings of the nodes. And I'm like, I don't see it. I don't know any of you. But Rahu being tattoos makes so much sense. good one to work with when you're also tattooing. If you are, like I said, into like really like if you're into like spooky shit and like the Thai occult stuff, Thai Buddhist amulets, whew, they have a shit ton for Rahu. And I'm like, it's a lot of protective stuff too. So I'm like, it's worth a check out if you're like into that stuff, into talismans. Like obviously, like to some point we all are, like we wouldn't be here talking about it, I think. But I'm like, if you're trying to look at a different lineage and like a different like viewpoint of it, really cool to check out. Because there is like, I know that the Thai occult has like this really cool Rahu amulet, and I'm like, I want it, but I also like I pretend I do not see it. Pretend I do not see it. You know, like, do I want to fuck with Rahu right now? Maybe he'll give me more tattoos. I don't know. Like I've been on a break recently, so
Ooh, that's something interesting to talk about how you'll be in like the mood to get a shit ton of tattoos. And then you'll be like, okay, I need a break. And whether that's from like desire or because they're super expensive, let's be real, then who knows? But those differing moods speaks to me the way it's very lunar, and how like you'll be in the mood to get a tattoo. And then you're like, I'm actually not, I'm good. I'll take I'll take a minute.
And it's
Yeah.
Rahu is always said to be like a roller coaster. Like it's like a lot all at once and then not a lot for a period of time.
And you know what they say like about, sorry, John, you know what they say about like once you get your first tattoo, right? Like you don't stop. You keep getting them. Yeah.
And that's Rahu. That's literally
Rahu. Yeah.
He's like, once I've tasted the food,
addicted.
There's no going back.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's funny that you say that like it's a roller coaster, but I'm like, once you get on the roller coaster, you're going up pretty fast. And then you're like, my body is like, woo, no. Because you're running out of that money to pay for the tattoos.
Definitely. I think that's what you said about specifically that visualization was so vivid, because that is how often you feel like when your body is reacting to being tattooed, like in the exact moment, you know, one spot will be hot, fiery, and then it'll go to a different spot. You're like, this is chill. I could fall asleep. And how because I know that I've been tattooed many times where I'm like, oh my God, that feels so different. She must be on the other side of my body. And they're like literally an inch away. And I'm like, what? That felt so far. And how, especially when you're not looking at yourself being tattooed, those sensations can become very confusing for your mind to think through. It's like my body is processing it. My mind doesn't want to or need to process it, but it's still trying to do that human logic thing, even though it doesn't really need to, because my body's taking care of it.
And it's also funny that like, you got to eat before a tattoo, because your blood sugar, it's literal, your blood sugar will drop because your body is literally going trauma. Oh my God, trauma to the body. Oh my God, how do we fix this? And it like goes into like it goes into panic mode.
My first tattoo that I ever got, the girl right before me gets off the table. He's cleaning it. She fully has a seizure. Like fully had a seizure on the couch of the tattoo shop.
No.
And I'm freshly 18, like getting my Scorpio constellation tattoo as my first tattoo.
Oh my gosh. Cute. Cute for you.
Bitch fully has a seizure in front of me. I was like,
did they disclose? I hope they disclosed that ahead of time, because that's really traumatic for the artist too. Like no doubt.
Because literally the artist could have done absolutely nothing wrong and they're still going to feel responsible.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
I'm sorry that was your first experience. It's like,
then like 3 years later, it came out that guy was like a huge homophobe and got kicked out of the studio, and he's a real shit person. So I'm looking to get it covered up at some point, just because I don't like, I like the tattoo, but I don't like him.
There are going to be people who will cover it up for you for free. I no doubt, honestly. Like there is a good community of people of like tattooers. Me too. You can check it out. A bunch of artists there will like, this is also a resource for people getting tattooed, and they have like, if you don't like your tattoo and it would come from like a fucking misogynist or someone who like was just shitty to like, there's so many predators in tattooing, it's awful. So it can be a very misogynistic, like very toxic culture, as we talked about before. But you should check it out. There's, I don't know the Instagram, I'll find it and maybe like we can link it later, but like there are a list of people who are like, hey, reach out to me, I will cover it up for you. Or like, yeah, I mean, I think that'd be really great, you know. And it is so lunar too, because you have so many like emotional responses to your tattoos. Like John, like you said, like the juice box tattoo that you have, it's like it was a moment in time, but like it will always remind you of those connections that you had. That's also the Venusian. And like for me, it's like I have, like I have my pug on my, well, I can't really show it, but I have like my pug on my arm and it looks really silly. And I, like I had just gotten him, but I'm like, he's now forever going to be on my arm. Like this is my baby, my little baby. And there is like this emotional response when I think that's why people maybe like ask what your favorite is, because they want to elicit like that, like good feeling of like an emotional response. And it's like, I don't really have one.
Well, also not that, but maybe this is subconscious or conscious, but in a way, when someone asks what their favorite tattoo is, they're literally asking you what is in a way the most vulnerable thing about you, because they're almost inevitably going to follow up and be like, well, what does that mean? And, bitches be curious, and that's cute for them, but also that's not necessarily their business.
Especially like, I mean, not for me personally, but for like a lot of people, tattoos are such like a healing, like I went through this big life, potentially traumatic event, and I'm now like blossomed and shed this old layer of myself. So I want to like commemorate that rebirth almost with this piece of art. And I don't necessarily want to tell everybody that traumatic story every 20 minutes when I meet somebody. Like that's annoying. So don't ask people what their tattoos mean.
Unless you like really, really fucking know them. Like you gotta really fucking know somebody to be cool with them, to be like, talking the tea, and then maybe it comes up or something related comes up and you're like, hey, what does that actually mean? I was wondering, like, because you're genuinely cool with them, as opposed to being in the supermarket trying to get your bananas and someone's like, oh my God, what's that thing on your arm?
Or being the cashier cashing out the bananas and every fucking customer is like, what's this woman on your arm?
Yeah.
If it's not you, why do you care?
If people love you, they will tell you what their tattoos mean. Like, and some of them don't have meaning. It just,
and they don't have to.
They don't have to. Like, learn that. It's just sometimes I like to tell people, like, when they ask like what my favorite tattoo is, like, I can't pick one, but I'm like, they're all beautiful art. They're all beautiful art. And I'm like, it is art going on art. Also, I love this for you, John.
Yes. I say that a lot, actually. People will ask me that. They'll be like, what is your favorite tattoo? And I'm like, well, I'm the piece of art. So shouldn't you be asking me like what my favorite thing about myself is, to be honest?
Yeah.
And I really love to say that, because I often say this to old people, because they're more likely to be conservative and religious when they come at me, and they're like, especially because I have like, people assume I'm a tattoo artist because I specifically have my hands tattooed. And that's like the telltale sign, I guess, of like a tattoo artist. Spoiler alert, I'm fucking not. And so old people will come at me like when I'm trying to get my bananas, and they'll be like, so why did you make these decisions? What, like out of nowhere, out of pocket. And I will always come at them and be like, well, my body is a temple to me. It's a work of art. It's my own personal masterpiece. And I like to use the analogy that I add stained glass to my temple, because I don't want just basic ass windows. I would like stained glass to look at. And some reason the God metaphors really get the old people. Because when I try to be like, well, I think they're really pretty or anything like that, they're like, those are going to look bad when you're my age. And I don't usually react well to those comments, as would I don't think anybody would. I don't think anybody would. I'm
not going to make it to your age because of the fucking climate change you're causing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow,
shut up. Shut the fuck up.
That's, what I'm really proud of though. Like, my parents hate my tattoos. Like I come from like a very like I come from a very like I'm a first generation Philam, and like my parents are immigrants, and I actually hid my tattoos from them. And I got big tattoos. I hid my tattoos from my parents for like a year and a half. Like I would wear long sleeves, and when I visit my parents, I'm from Hawaii. Like I would be like in long sleeves and like 85-degree weather. Like it was so hot one day. I gave up. My brother came to me and he's like, you can stop doing that. They know. And my mom was like, just don't get any more tattoos. But she's like, I don't like that you're so tattooed, but she's never called them ugly. She never has called them ugly. So I'm like, Real recognizes real. Love you, mom. I will still get tattoos, but you ain't call them ugly because they aren't ugly. I do not have ugly tattoos. I have one that didn't heal well, but I'm like, other than that, not
Okay.
ugly.
Since
So
we're
very
all
proud of it.
pretty tattooed, do you also think that ugly tattoos can ruin someone's hotness?
Ooh.
Ooh.
Because literally today I was at the beach and I saw this beautiful man and his shorts rolled up a little. He had a fucking paragraph tattooed on his thigh in cursive.
No.
Okay, exactly. Thank you. So yes, the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
I think it also depends on like, I think it's so funny because you know how they have that like
not the paragraph.
Is
Not
it like
the paragraph.
not the paragraph in cursive. Oh my god, I hope it wasn't like a fucking Bible quote.
Bible verse.
Yeah, I
A
wasn't
Bible
that
verse.
close to see.
Oh, good.
It looked like it was like, I think it was like a maybe like something someone had written him. Like I'm giving him the benefit. I'm like, maybe it's something your like grandma wrote to you when she was dying.
Okay, well, to be fair, I have one of those and it takes up like this much space.
There
so
you
like,
go. That's
come on.
yours is tasteful. You don't need
and there's like you can't read it if it's like far away. You can't really. Not
it
the
was
windows.
like that shitty Windows cursive font.
Not the windows.
That was it's like getting a tattoo in papyrus. Like why the fuck
I
would
was
you
gonna
do that?
like, not papyrus. I think of that TikTok where it's a reel, whatever, where it's like Avatar is in papyrus. Oh, that's an SNL skit. But no, like I think it also depends on like what, because some like there is a style of tattooing, like ignorant style tattooing. And like I'm gonna say it, I'm not a fan of trash polka. I think trash polka that's my hot take, is like I think it's
I was about to say we're starting the hot takes
We're
now,
turning
y'all.
the hot takes.
Turning on the hot takes.
Look, ignorant style tattooing I get because it's very crude. There is a time and place for it. Like I have some cute, really weird, like I think it's like cute to be ugly. It's like so ugly it's cute.
It's camp. It's camp.
It's camp.
Yes, I was gonna say that. It's camp.
Whereas like trash polka, I don't get it. I'm like, I kind of do for certain people. Like there's a certain type of person that can pull off a trash polka tattoo. I am not one of them. It's too loud for me. And I'm like, also my other hot take is like, you should not be getting single needle tattoos unless it's like very heavily shaded. And like I have like I have two really big ass single needle tattoos that I have, and also this is single needle, like my shoulder is single needle. That's gonna last. Not the tiny ones. Like this was a single needle. My late dog was a single needle tattoo, and this is also why I don't get. Have you heard of like ephemeral tattoo? Like the tattoo that like lasts for a year?
Yes.
It's
fucking weird.
Why are you paying so much money for a tattoo that's not going to last? I'm sorry. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a temporary tattoo that like fades tastefully or something.
In a year.
Why would you spend the money or endure the pain?
Yeah. If it's not going to last forever, why are you spending? I guess for like people who don't want to there's something beautiful about the sentiment, but it in theory, but in practice, it's like, I'm not paying the same amount of money I would pay for a tattoo that's going to last forever. Like, what is that bullshit?
I'm definitely thinking about my friend who has a massive trash polka piece right now. And
sorry.
I mean, I don't care. I think it looks good on them, but I absolutely in a million years would never have it on my own body. So
I think you have to be a certain kind of person too. Like a coworker of mine has one, and he like rides a motorcycle and is in a punk band.
Perfect.
So I'm
yes.
Like, it works for you.
Perfect.
Yeah, never definitely. For me. I'm a Venusian bitch. Like I am florals, I am pretty things. Like I have flowers all over my goddamn body. Like my whole back is flowers. It's not my style. I'm just pretty, and everyone should realize and notice that. It's such a fucking Leo rising.
Honestly, like break from the hot takes to talk about the Venus, because although, you know, all of the amazing reasons and meanings that we can get behind a tattoo, like there is something about the Venusian fucking boost of beauty confidence when you
literally
get
pretty.
When you're like, damn, I just got hotter because I have this fucking tattoo. Yeah. 1,000,000%.
And I think every person I know, you two can probably vouch for this. Every time you get a tattoo, you're like, I just got hotter.
Literally, I just got hotter, like instantaneous. there's no delay. Like, and that's the weird thing. Even when it's healing, even when it's in the process, you're like, this is on my body now. And it has accentuated me in a way that I will have forever.
And there are literally people, like I know of a tattoo artist in Chicago who like doesn't tattoo that often, but now is doing like consults for like the rest, like people can go to them and like they will like find artists to finish off like the rest of their body. And I'm like, that is some like Saturnian ass shit, but also like it is a literal, like you're a Venus consult person, because it's like what's gonna make your body look prettier and even hotter, but work with the rest of your tattoos.
Damn.
And I'm like, you can tell I have like a Venus that's like in, well, this is more Mars actually. My Mars and my moon are in mutual reception with each other. And so I'm like, I like to think I'm like, that's why I'm fucking tattooed as shit. Cause I'm like, I have an emotional response. I get a tattoo. Like, but yeah, no, I think it's also interesting to see like what in your chart is like, what has what is the compulsion that has made you want to get a tattoo?
Ooh, do we want to talk about that? I mean, you kind of talked about yours, but do we want to go around and like say what we think about ourselves in that way?
Yeah, I would love to know, because I think it's interesting for every person. Like one person, so for me, like my first tattoo and the experience of it is like, I had my first couple of tattoos planned out. Like my first tattoo was is this like heart on my literal heart on my shoulder sleeve, and it was hand poked. I asked a shit ton of questions. It's very literal, like it's very lunar, and also very Venusian, and I was super proud of it. But I think it was really like that compulsion of like, oh, there is something going on in my life that is like, I need the Mars and the moon were like, you need to get a tattoo, and like you need to get it now. So for me, that was my thing, but I'd love to hear what your stories are and what you think the placements in your chart that like really ping when you want a new tattoo or get a new tattoo.
Go for it, John.
So in my tropical chart, my Mars is my only, Mars and the nodes are my only angular planets. And so I think there's something to be said there. As well as I have the moon in Aquarius, and Aquarius to me has always felt like it was related to tattoos. I don't know why, but then learning about the Rahu thing and the fact that Rahu is the co-ruler of Aquarius and Jyotish, that was another link for me. Like every time I see a person that's heavily tattooed, I'm like, what do you have in Aquarius? Like, there has to be something there. Like, what's going on? And then in my Vedic chart, I have Rahu in the first of the D9 or the Navamsha, which is the chart of like the soul. And things that are in the first house of that are things that you inherited from like a last life as like passions, which is why I like really like language, because like Rahu and like foreign things, and like I've always been interested in like foreign music and stuff. And so there's just lots of like Rahu in I'm very nodal. My Vedic chart is very nodal. So I think that's what it is. You don't see me.
I don't see you, but now I love you, and now I see you and I acknowledge you.
That's amazing. So
yeah.
wow. Okay. So for me, I got my first tattoo when I was 16, which is a 5th house perfection year. And I'm a Sag rising. And so for me, that's Aries. And so for me, I guess like the thing in my chart that has always seemed super fucking obvious is that my moon and my Saturn are both fallen. So I have moon in Scorpio, Saturn in Aries. They're both Mars ruled, and they both answer to my Mars in Taurus, which you would think would be like, oh, poor little Mars, but my Mars is rejoicing. And so she gives absolutely no fucks, none ever. And so that like urge sensation when I feel that I am going to get a tattoo, it like, I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking about Jupiter, because when I get tattoos, like I get them in visions and I see myself already having them. It's like a very spiritual thing. Like I will just get a vision of myself already having it. And then I'm like, all right, I have to find the artist that I feel drawn to do it, to make it happen, to make the idea happen. And I often won't know about it beforehand. Like I won't have this like plot. It'll just like come to me. And then it's like, oof, I can't fight the urge. I have to do the thing immediately. Well, like as soon as possible.
As soon as they get you in. As soon as I can get
fit in. As soon as I have the money and the time and the resources.
In 5 months.
Quite literally, yes.
Yeah. I will be honest with you all that like part of the reason I haven't been getting tattooed lately is like, number one, like I'm getting old. I'm 30. Like your body just like cannot handle like long sessions after a while. So I'm like,
The older you get,
it's more painful. It gets worse. And like your stamina gets worse for it. So I'm like, it's not athletic by any means, but you have to have some sort of
vitality.
I disagree. I actually think it is kind of athletic because like your body goes through so much. It's basically a fucking workout. Like you leave tattoo appointments so hungry. To me, that feels like, to me, it literally maybe this is my Mars exposing me.
It's a marathon. It's a marathon.
Yeah,
not a sprint.
It is. And I leave so hungry and I literally am like, I just worked out. I'm sore. I'm sweaty. I'm hungry.
You gotta
I
take
just worked
breaks.
out.
You gotta take breaks. You gotta pace yourself. And I'm like, I always come with snacks. I come with drinks. Also like 90%. So this is also a reason why I haven't gotten tattooed lately is because like, I don't want to pay for it. I do a lot of trades. Like secret for like anyone who has tattoo friends and like gets tattooed. If you like are buddy with your artist and get to know them enough, they will trade you. Like if they like you enough, they might trade you. So a lot of my tattoos now are trades. And so I'm like, I don't want to pay for them because I have been, but it's been really sweet that like people want to trade me. But at the same time, it's like, it's very taxing on the body. Especially if you get a big tattoo, like you need to prepare yourself. And like, I'm literally there for like a whole day, like, like the whole day, like, even if it's like a, maybe like 3. I'm a good sitter though. So I don't know if y'all, this is also another thing I want to find out. Are y'all good sitters? Like, do you twitch? I mean, like I twitch a lot if I don't have like a lot of water. This is why the process of tattooing is very like Martial moon for me, and also Rahu. Is like it's I don't know if I would consider it athletic more than like it is a lot of, you have to have a lot of stamina and you have to prepare yourself. So if you don't have that stamina, you have to come with reinforcements and ready. And like I order boba for my tattoo artist and me, like also a good way to get them to like you and like to trade more. These are my secrets. Don't steal them all.
I was just saying, you're exposing all the tricks of the trade.
Let it go. Let it out.
I know. Don't steal my friends who give me trades. No, it's fine. I'm sure everyone's different, but it is really, I mean, like it is really like you have to have a lot of stamina. So I really haven't, have gotten a lot of it because like I just don't want to sit for that long anymore.
It's definitely rough. Like the older that you get, the more that it hurts, like the less patience I feel like I have for it. And that just, age old testament that things change with age, and it's nothing like being young. You heal fast. You don't feel pain as much. Young sprite, ready to go for life. And then the years start coming and they don't stop coming.
Yeah. As my favorite movie soundtrack says, the years start coming and they don't stop coming.
I'm on the main level. I'm in my Rahu Dasha until I'm 35. So I'm trying to get them all.
So you're gonna get all of it.
That's actually something that would be worth talking about, specifically to me with Saturn, because we only have a certain amount of fucking skin. And at some point you will run out of maybe not tattooable skin, but skin that you would like to have tattooed. And at some point you hypothetically could run out of skin to be tattooed. And so we do have a finite resource that we are given, and that we have to have a level of responsibility about where you put things, about how things go together. Because you don't want to eventually look back in time and say, oh shit, I would have liked that next to that. Or maybe that was too rash of a decision, because we all have that. Like, that's why, as we were saying, like cover-ups, blast over, laser, all that exists. But at the same time, you could get your whole body tattooed and then have it all lasered and do it all again, but you're still going to like run out of skin. And that's something that we all have to kind of reckon with and think, okay, well, how much of my body do I want to be tattooed? This is something that people have often like asked me, just like making the tattoo conversation casually. They'll be like, oh, well, how much more do you expect to get? And in my head, I'm like, how the fuck do you expect me to know that right now?
Know.
The limit is like, you've seen Mean Girls. The limit does not exist.
I mean, the limit does exist for my body though. Like,
well, exactly. Yes. Yeah. But like my desire is limitless.
No, my desire is limitless. But I'm also like everyone's like, you're running out of skin, bitch. And I'm like, some small stuff.
I got skin.
Like,
look at my crevices.
Yeah, I was like, look at all the nasty parts of my body that not nasty, but nasty for tattooers, because tattooers don't want to tattoo your elbow. You know
Your
what I mean?
elbow.
Right.
Um,
That's actually something funny that to like could maybe talk about, like spots that tattoo artists like definitely don't want to tattoo if you're thinking the
it
spicy
depends.
spots.
Spicy spots, there, people will also say like what, it's just when everyone asks you like what hurts the most, it's like it's so different for everyone.
People love to ask me that question. I don't know why. I think I get that question more than anything else. Maybe I exude Mars super loud, but people love to ask me which one hurt the worst. And I'm thinking, you literally do not know my name.
Yeah.
Okay, though.
Yeah, but it's also so different for everyone, and it also different for like for me, I know like everyone, when I got my huge back tattoo, people were like, oh my God, it's gonna hurt so much on your spine. Spine was fine. That is bone. It's covered, like the nerves are being covered and protected by bone. I don't feel shit. You know what hurt the most for me? The fucking back of my, like where the shoulder blades meet. The shoulder meets the back. That little, like the shoulder blade area. That fucking hurt like a bitch. I hated it. Also, like any of the like my ditch wasn't that bad, but like the knee ditch, back of your knees, oh my God, spicy as fuck. And tattooers that I know don't like doing ribs, don't like doing inner arm, like upper inner arm, because it's like very, jiggly and like it's
soft.
It's too soft to like get a good, like I have a capybara on mine, but like timely, even though I got it before the fucking meme blew up. Capybara, I don't know. Yeah. But like it's just funny, and it just depends on which artist. And I would also love to see like what artists' charts are, because it'd be funny to like correlate that with like what are the parts that you don't like, and what is your tattooing like, what does it look like for you as a tattooer to get tattoos? Because a lot of the tattooers I know don't actually have a lot of tattoos, which is weird.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's because they're too busy tattooing other people that they don't have time to get tattoos, or not as many as they would like to have. But maybe that's just the people that I meet.
I was gonna say everyone I've ever gotten a tattoo from is like almost covered.
Yeah, most of the people that have tattooed me are super heavily tattooed. There's like a couple, I think there's a couple that don't have as many. I've been tattooed by like close to 20 different people though, so it kind of blurs.
Yeah, no, I've been tattooed by a lot of people. I see a lot of, which is funny because my 9th house, the L9 is like my Mars. And I get a lot of the people, a lot of people doing trips for tattoos and like guest artists, which I think is funny that like that's.
Oh, I have a fallen L9 too, and I never have.
Really? Do you have a lot of? It's funny because I love when guest artists come through, but I also live in like New York, and like
I was gonna say, yeah.
I live in New York, so a lot of. I think like if you lived in a big city, John, I think you would get a lot of guest artists too.
Probably.
Yeah, because I think especially with like the foreign obsession, I think like a lot
of the Rahu, yes.
The Rahu. I think it's so funny because like I love the styles of tattoos that are coming out of South Korea and Taiwan. They're very delicate and pretty. Not all of them are gonna last, right? Not all of them are gonna last. But I do think like they are very delicate and pretty, and like I love delicate and pretty on my body. But also I have like a lot of angular planets as well, and like my moon is on my IC. So I also think, and also like L4 is Mars, right? My Mars and my moon are in mutual reception. And I'm like, I also think of tattoos as like, it's like, I come home to them. They're my little, like, I feel at home. The process of tattooing has made me feel more at home in my body. Right. And it like, it has helped me understand my body more. It has been a spiritual practice for me in that I understand my body more, how it works, the mechanics, and I just feel better. Like it's a big attunement to the moon for me, moon and Mars. So I don't know how that's how you feel about yours, or like, I'd love to hear that too.
I definitely agree with that. I feel very much more at home in my body because of my tattoos. I guess kind of using that like temple reference that I use a lot with people. That's often how I like look at myself and my body as a whole. And I think more honestly, like pure excitement is probably the best feeling descriptor to use, because it makes me more excited to exist in my body because I like the way that it looks and because I have essentially decided how I want it to look and thus how I want to feel when I look at it, which then overall contributes to, I feel like, my quality of life so much that going through, because I do like different tattoos, you get memory triggers, whether you get something, I'm sure, there are celebratory tattoos, like good life events. And then there's also a lot of like tattoos that mark really triggering, really traumatic life events that you can be reminded of as well, but that all contribute to your life experience. And so then having it in an artistic form then is so healing and so almost wholesome. Like it makes me wholesome, not in like the, oh, wholesome, but like wholesome in that it makes me feel more whole.
It's a fuller, richer experience for you to live in the body that is tattooed and has this deep meaning to it.
Absolutely.
To completely echo what both of you said in just kind of another way, whenever people ask me why I like tattoos so much, my genuine and earnest response is that it makes me more interested in inhabiting my physical form. And like, for those of us with the mental illness, that's just inhabiting the physical form is sometimes quite a challenge. And it's a lot nicer to be like, well, my physical form is mine and it's pretty.
Yeah.
So let me just live in that for a second.
Especially for all of us, like malefic moons, malefic people, moon people as a whole, existing is sometimes very challenging, bare minimum.
Challenging.
Well, yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, pretty much just saying how that challenge is then lessened by that joy that you get from feeling fucking pretty.
And like what I like to say, especially like I echo it all throughout, like, and one of the ethoses of my life is like, a lot of us are like, it is such a good way for outsiders, quote unquote, because ultimately, like in this Western conservative culture, like American culture still, there's this conservatism, especially when it comes to business and like professionalism, which is bullshit, whatever.
I was like, I really thought we weren't going to talk about it.
No, I'm gonna address it though, because
we have to go there
as outsiders, right? Like I think tattooing and I think like tattooing is a further way for us to like exist. And I like to say like all of these marginalized identities, like existence is resistance, because people don't want to see us like alive. Like they don't want to see people like queer people, neurospicy people, like I'm a fat person, so I'm like a fat person. Like people don't like, I'm also like non-binary, so I'm like, it's been a way for like me, especially as like all these identities, to like feel at home in my body. And like it's a form of resistance. Like, like I said, my mom is like, don't get tattoos, and I'm like, well, fuck you, it's my body. It's my body. Like you don't have a say over my body, it's my autonomy. So I'm like, my tattoos can also be a form of resistance against patriarchy, like establishment shit. Like it's, so I'm like, yeah, no, like professionalism be damned. Like I'm so happy like the culture is changing, right? But I mean, like there are some jobs, like I still am, working in healthcare, and like eventually I'm gonna try and like meld those things together with my like spiritual practice. But like in healthcare, I had to cover up my tattoos. Like I didn't have to for certain jobs, but like I would be looked down upon if I wasn't wearing like a full, like I was covering up all my tattoos, and I'm very covered in tattoos. So it's like, there's like, that's so stupid. And I'm so happy that like a lot of us, like a lot of like, especially like starting with like millennials, right? I don't know about Gen X. I don't think, well, no one cares about Gen X. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
They're not listening to this.
They're not listening to this. But I feel like starting with millennials is that culture of like, once the millennials are starting to become bosses, like there's this trickle down of like, it is starting to be like, the culture is changing around having tattoos, right? Like I can't change the fact that I already have these tattoos on my body. So I'm like, why would I cover them up unless they're like really offensive, right? But then it,
like a swastika.
Yeah, I don't have a swastika, like
or like if people have like curse words tattooed on them and like you work somewhere like that, I understand like asking someone to cover that up. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't. but
Yeah.
like
Couldn't be me.
I would never, but
What?
I could see someone asking that and being like, I get it.
Yeah, no, I had an employer who was like, I have like all flowers on my body, right? Like I don't have anything like naughty, quote unquote.
Mhm.
And they were still like, you have to cover that up. And I was like, so
That is definitely an interesting experience for me because I teach kids dance. That's like one of my many jobs, mutable midheaven things. But one of my jobs is teaching kids dance. And I also like teach adults dance. And it's so interesting, the spectrum, like the switch of like, that's so cool when you're teaching adults, but when you're teaching kids ballet, sometimes their parents be like, giving you the side eye a little bit, even though dance is an art, still, it is an entertainment, it is an art, it is all of these things that you would think is not the professionalism societal box. And yet still it is something that is so like classically traditional in so many ways that is seen as must fit in the box, especially because like a lot of professional dancers are not tattooed on purpose so that they are
yeah,
like clones of each other and faceless and nameless, and I just don't exist like that.
no, especially
So-
like ballet, especially considering you teach ballet. Like ballet is so hardcore and like they very conservative.
Oh, this
art,
episode
okay.
this episode will come out after my other one. So if you're listening to this now, go listen to my episode that I just released then with Joe about ballet. Plug.
Yeah, no, it's ballet is very conservative.
Very, very much so. And very close-minded in a lot of ways, that if you're not doing the right thing, then you're out. But
Even if you are doing the right thing, it's so hard. I have one of my really close friends from high school did the whole like professional ballerina route. And I'm like, they're hardcore. They like
very hardcore.
You only have like a certain peak, you know what I mean? Like you have a peak and then like it's just it's very dehumanizing at times. And
Yes.
I think for you, like being able to teach and have this tattoo and exist as this like person who finds joy in that is beautiful. You know, it is resistance again.
And it's realistic as well. Like in today's world, and thankfully a lot of the pretty much all the moms of the kids that I teach are really cool. So that's thankful that like the studio is really cool, the families are really cool. So I'm grateful for that, and that they're essentially doing the opposite of the norm. And so then I can be the opposite of the norm in every way I want to. But that really does speak to the time, like the times they are changing, you know, and how that professionalism thing has really switched over time to people being, I think, like more realistic now and thinking, okay, well, you have this art on your body. Like, well, it's not infected. It's not an open wound. It's healed. You've already had this. This doesn't affect your ability to work or to do a job or task or anything like that. And so if you think logically, then it shouldn't really affect anything at all.
Yeah, but we don't always think logically as a society.
And I liken it a lot to like there are aspects of Venus that we as a society just like shame people for no reason, just because. So like sex, like if you have too much sex. Tattoos, if you have too much art on your body, oh, you're a trash person. Oh, if you eat too much, like you're like there's this with Venusian and this like like the Venus that we exude is so often judged by other people. Like we have especially in the West, like we have a very hard time with certain Venusian expressions because we are so malefic in how we operate.
I would even say that's also like a Jupiterian thing of like too muchness, right? Like
too much,
there's like too muchness. And it's like Meg Keane wrote like a newsletter on Jupiter that was super really very interesting, where it was like, well, what is too muchness? That is too muchness in a container. Like, what is this vastness? And it's like, John, what you're talking about is such a societal thing. It's the diurnal benefic of like, who is to say like I am too much? Who is to say like I am too tattooed through this like Venusian expression, right? Like that's just, I had to like say that because it was just reminded me of like everything. Also, like this is why I'm like Jupe is entering the conversation for me. Jupe's entering the house.
Daddy Jupe.
Daddy Jupe's entering the house.
This is interesting. This is making me think of not just Jupiter as like the diurnal benefic, but also the sun as well. And how, even though tattooing is a very lunar experience, when you have tattoos, you are more solar because you are more visible, you are more seen. You have more on your body that is eye-catching, that people are more drawn to literally look at you. And so in a way, by
Look
doing
or not look or not look. I think that's the key thing. You are just they make your body very polarizing.
Very much so, because that is true, especially, and you know, not to call anybody out, but if you're one of those like millennial white probably moms who's raising your kid to be like, don't look at that person, don't look away when you walk by in the grocery store, then you are the problem.
Just respectfully eat my ass. That's all I gotta say.
I don't want to invite those people to eat my ass, y'all. They're gonna be floppy. It's not gonna be cute.
It's not gonna be cute.
It's not gonna be cute.
They've also never done it before, so they wouldn't know what to do.
Look, I mean, real talk, I have seen someone drop trow in front of me and eat ass in front of me. It was an experience. I will say that. I go to a lot of orgies, y'all. I'm exposing myself. I was working bar and it was a good time. I was offering vodka gummy bear shots to people. And for one, I was like, do whatever the fuck you want, like amuse me. And someone ate someone's ass out in front of me for a vodka gummy bear shot. I gave them 2 because I was like, that's an experience. You deserve that. You deserve that.
Have a treat.
But yeah, like it's just funny that society tells us all these things, and like it is like the solarness of it, right? The solarness of like, I have these bodies and I'm existing outwardly in this world. But it is still such a lunar thing to me, because it's like, well, who the fuck cares what you think about like how I appear? It's like, I got this for me. It is not for you. Like, yes, stare at them, but ultimately this is an experience for me and my body and my emotional stability and like my comfort.
My desire to inhabit my physical form.
Absolutely.
My ultimate form.
Actually, yes, the continual up leveling of my form to reach a peak and to continue to let that peak keep rising, because then when you think you've peaked, you're like, just wait, I can do better.
What is my final evolution, y'all? What is my final evolution?
TBD.
Gyarados.
TBD.
It's Gyarados.
It's your Gyarados. I feel like I'm a Jigglypuff on steroids. That's what I am.
I feel like I'm honestly a Charizard, to be real.
I'm a Jigglypuff on steroids. Like, I'm a fucking I'm a soft bitch, but when you all fall asleep to my song, I get pissed. Because where the fuck is the attention on me?
You bring out that marker and you're like,
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna draw on your face.
All eyes on me, baby.
And that's tattooing temporarily.
Wow. So when I get my Jigglypuff tattoo, I'm gonna think all about you the whole time, Christa.
Hell yeah. This is I didn't this is a love story between Rahu and me and Jupiter and me.
And Jigglypuff.
And Jigglypuff and John.
Every time I have given a Jyotish consult, there has been some issue with the nodes that I have to talk about with literally every single person. So I think it's just my calling to be people's like, no, the nodes aren't that bad.
The nodes do exist.
They're very real.
They are real.
You cannot see them, but they do exist.
That was how it was in my consult too, I feel like, because
I'm telling you, every person I've had to give a Rahu or K2 remedy to, mostly Rahu.
Wild.
I love that.
Also, something we've almost talked about every planet, but we haven't talked at all about Mercury. And I think that this is so interesting when you like the mercurial nature of tattooing and having to talk with an artist. And when if those situations that almost get like awkward when they have no idea what the fuck you're trying to convey and you're trying to express an idea and you're having an issue like finding the right frequency on the radio to where you're both really clear to get the point across, and how that can end up like changing how you feel about it or the experience in general, and also just how the communication and how ideas are expressed are so vital to how the piece comes out.
I also think the Mercury plays a role in like the relationship and the flow of the consultate, but either if you have a consult in the consultation, but also the act of tattooing, because I'm like, your tattooer is trying to make you feel comforted, but they're also fucking concentrating on putting a literal mark on your body. So it's like, what is the balance of conversation to like and then like also fucking off, like it's, and there's also that like awkwardness of like, I guess it's not an issue as much for like me now, because I'm literally like, this is like, these are ideas that I have, pick the best one, or like I will choose flash if that's the thing. But like, I think there is something personal about you having your idea, giving it to someone and being like, I think the best, and I've heard from people, because I have a lot of artist friends, right? Like it's I think the best way you can come across is like, you should already know your artist style. And then
Absolutely.
your idea has to like match that. Like it's you have to, there is this implicit trust. Because if you like, also if you're booking and like because you are basically giving a pitch for your tattoo. This is what like booking a tattoo is like, you're giving a pitch. And I think you also have to refine the way you sound, because like sometimes artists, and I've had this feedback from like friends and artists that joke about it, is like, if you write or sound like super demanding or like come across as like an entitled little bitch, like the more likely they will not take you. Or they'll be like, if they already accepted you and your idea and you're like a little bitch about it, they're going to make fun of you behind your back. Like, absolutely.
Nobody will tattoo you.
No one's going to tattoo you.
Yeah.
You will be banned. Like it's you. So I'm like, also like treat your artists well, like communicate with them well, even there, sometimes there's a mismatch of like someone sounding really demanding over text and then in person they're like fantastic. So there is that trust in that, but it's like, just don't be a dick to people, like try to be nice. And like, also you're gonna have to, I think there is that like blind trust of Mercury of like, you're gonna have to, and Mercury likes to fuck around and like mess with you, right? Like that's, Mercury's a trickster. But there is that element of like, you have to be deliberate in your communication, but also allow enough flexibility so that your artist, like you have to give kind of trust to your artist. It is this letting go of like this idea and this like baby of an idea and seed, and like trusting that Mercury will do its job in translating it. And like the fact that like there's also that Venus coming in of like, will it be the correct vision that you envisioned, that you dreamt up?
Yeah. And very much like with the trust in the artist, how you were saying, you want to know your artist style before you go. You want to be comfortable giving that trust. You don't want to feel like you're on shaky ground by any means, because then that will, color how confident you are about your vision. Because especially if you come to an artist with this idea that's not really fully thought out, they're going to have some interpretation to it, because they are artists and it is a creation of art. And so a lot of the times it might not necessarily look exactly the way that you thought it was going to look, but it has the feeling that you want to get from it. And so then the vision and the feeling become this very intertwined thing of how you express that visually based on what you are feeling and what it means to you.
I think for me, the Mercury really comes in like the before the actual tattoo session begins part. Like if you don't research the artist, like you're quite literally going in blind. Like you do not know what to expect from them. Like you have to do the Mercury of like, I need to have my idea, or I need to know that they have a flash. I need to just like, I literally can't just, what you should not do is walk into a tattoo studio for the first time and say, I want a tattoo.
Which like, it's funny that the culture has moved into that of like, there are still walk-in shops that will take your idea, but if I'm going to have something on my body forever, I want to do my research. I want my research being done. I want to be able to explore, and
bare minimum, you need to have an idea.
Yes.
Or like know that there will be a flash sheet. You need to go in with a concept of like, this is what I'm going to get, or this is where I'm going to find what I'm going to get.
And this research is important so that you're not surprised, so that you're not booking with an artist or walking into someone and you think you're going to get one thing and then you look at their flash and their books and it's something completely different. And this also brings up the really important point of, if you go to an artist who is very well known for something and specializes in something, why would you ask them to do something that is not what they do? And
Yep.
that really speaks to the like mercurial research of like, know what you are asking for and know that you are asking the right person for what you are asking. Because if you're asking like a black and gray artist to do a full color piece, one of my friends literally said that they like had their artist is only a black and gray artist, and they told them a story about how someone booked with them and then went in like fully expecting a full color piece. And they were like, dog, I haven't done color in years. Like, I am a black and gray, like fine line artist. That's what I do. And they were like, well, no, we talked about color. And he's like, no, dog, we talked about this piece. You thought it was going to be color. And then it was this whole thing simply because they didn't do their research and they didn't know, because they based on their assumption, because they sent color references, but that doesn't mean that the artist is going to do that. And so you really have to know what you're getting yourself into.
Also, like, do your social media research. Like, most artists will have a list of, like, if they take customs, they'll have a list of like, these are stuff that I specialize in. I would like to do more of this round. Like, if you want these things, I will and nice artists will turf you to another artist and make suggestions. But other than that, like, you should be like, this is why social media exists. Like, you should be doing your research. You should be resonating with a style that like fits the one you want. And like, you have to like the vision of the artist. Like, you have to like the artist's art in order to like want them to realize your vision. And there is that implicit trust. So I'm like, do your research. Period.
Period.
Reading is what?
Fundamental.
Do you guys want to talk about any tattoos that you have for planets, or any specific tattoos with whether planetary or not meanings that you wish to share about? Maybe like vulnerable time, or maybe we can go back to hot take time.
I do have like a tattoo that's like, it's my Sag North node with my Libra sun. And then this was like a tattoo that a astrologer tarot artist did. And then I got one from like, just like, I don't even know what this means anymore, but I know it was a hand poke tattoo based off my chart. And I think it was like because of like the balsamic moon progressed lunar phase I was in. I don't remember now. But I would say like the most personal tattoos for me are my 2 leg tattoos of Persephone and Medusa. And those are big, like, those are my, like, I have a deity leg. And so, but these are like my tattoos of Medusa and Persephone. Those took like 16 hours each. The same artist who I love, she's Natasha Hannah Scott in now Sacramento. Worked a lot, like those are like, even before I got really into astrology and also like Hellenistic times and like my Greek, pantheon of gods, I was like, those 2, like these tattoos. And like I have an Algol fixed star like parents, so it's like even before I knew what that meant, like I got this tattoo of her, and I'm like, it's just. And the Medusa one is also Medusa holding the bust of Perseus, so it's like a switch on the other on the myth. And I like Algol for me, and one of my mentor Amaya is like a big Algolian. It was just like, I can't believe I got this before I knew any of this stuff. And so I just like, isn't it funny when like things sync up like that? It's just hilarious to me.
That is actually something I was going to bring up later that might as well talk about now, is that is potentially getting a tattoo before you were as well versed in astrology or magic, and now seeing how, without even knowing it subconsciously at that time, that was a piece that you got literally in devotion of this thing that you weren't yet consciously aware of. That's a big one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I have a very obvious one of those. My Birth of Venus tattoo, like of the painting, literally got this because I like the painting, and I was like, I'm an art history major, like I should get a painting tattoo. So I got the literal Birth of Venus.
Oh my God, I wanted to get a Birth of Venus done in raccoon form. I still want that, actually.
You should absolutely get that. That's
yes.
incredible.
No one steal my idea.
That's Christa's only.
No, you can get that. I don't give a shit. But yeah, Mackenzie, what's yours?
So I pretty much the biggest one, which is also the most vulnerable one. That's how it goes. When I was in high school, I studied Spanish because I just loved the language, and the culture. And I was also part of Spanish club and super nerdy. And we did a lot of like cultural celebrations and cooking and stuff. And I got this massive Day of the Dead girl tattooed on me. It was like my first big tattoo. Specifically because I loved their Day of the Dead celebration, and in their culture, how much they celebrate their loved ones passing and try, obviously it's grief and obviously that's hard in death, but there is such a celebration that goes with that. And I was like, yeah, I fucking love that. That's so amazing. And then a couple of years later, my dad dies like very suddenly of a heart attack. And I'm like shot in the face with grief and like having to, because my dad was like very lovable. Like he was so Libra. He was amazing. And he was very like, everybody knew him. And so everybody had all these great memories of him. And so it was like a celebration at his funeral and all of these things. Like everyone was drinking a lot, smoking a lot, partying a lot. Like it was a celebration. And so I had to do a lot of healing and reckoning with that, and how I essentially foretold my future in a way of something that I was going to be dealing with. And that was also like not at all coincidentally around the time that I was getting very serious in my relationship with Saturn, and was like, ooh, okay. So being a night chart, being a fallen Saturn baby, it's rough out here for us, y'all. We're vibing. We're trying to vibe. And so all of the shit, quite frankly, of going through that and dealing with that. And so that was the most, I guess, like vivid one after the fact, along with, we're late enough in the episode. I'll say this. I got not matching, but coordinating tattoos with an ex. And the one that I got for him was a lion because he was a Leo.
Of course.
And then later found out my papa, who like my mom's dad, who passed the day before I turned 1. So I never like knew him, but he's always been the family member that everybody has told me that I'm just like. And then turns out like a couple months ago, one of my family members was doing some digging and found a picture of his birth certificate and found like a digital autobiography that he had written and like didn't tell anybody about. And he's a Leo sun, and he's got like other Leo shit. And it's like the fact that this mofo literally wrote an autobiography and was like, someone's going to want to read about my life. It's important enough.
Someone's going to want it.
And how I have that tattoo right next to one that I actually got for my dad. And like, those are the two spirits that I have always thought are like most closely looking over me. My dad, like obviously just a few years ago, but my papa, like my entire life. And how I didn't even realize that was happening at the time. And now they're just like right next to each other on my shoulder, quite literally looking over my back at me the whole time of my life existence. So that's been the big one. And those have been the big one, like the accidental ones, I guess. At this point, I'm being much more intentional about it now. I have like 2 like back of my leg pieces. One is for Jupiter and one's for Saturn. The Jupiter one is lemons and lemon balm. And the one for Saturn is mushrooms. And so I'm in love with those 2, for sure. So yeah, those are my big ones.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mine are like super soft, vulnerable, mushy bitch shit over here, but that's,
I mean, like for my intentional astrology tattoos, I got the Venus that Hugh did. And that was just because
shout out to Hugh Tran.
That to this day, my artist is like, it's one of my favorite tattoos that I've ever done, which I think is amazing. I love her. So that one was like, I elected it. I have 3 grains of wheat for Spica because my grandma, my mom all have Spica heliacally rising in our charts. So there's
do you guys do y'all have it matching?
No, it's just me that has it.
Oh my gosh, this would be a fun time to talk about matching tattoos.
I don't have any.
Oh my God.
You don't have any, Krista?
Any?
I don't have any matching tattoos with anyone. My partner is not interested in getting tattooed. I have tried.
Just do it while he's sleeping.
My partner is also not interested in getting tattooed, but this makes me feel like such a slut. I have so many matching tattoos with so many different people. I am a tattoo slut.
I'll get a matching tattoo of just about anything for any reason.
Literally.
I mean, like, I'll do it.
Just about anybody.
I don't
the three of us honestly need one now.
Yeah, now we have to just have a just so I can say I have a matching tattoo.
Yeah.
Period. Yes.
I think I only have 2.
Is one of them the juice box?
The juice box is one. The other is actually the Scorpio constellation. My first tattoo is a matching tattoo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I have none. Cute. I have none.
I should not even say how many I have because it would take up too much time.
No, I mean, you don't have to tell us tell us how many.
I don't even know if I could count them all. Okay, hold on. I'll go fast. I have a safety pin matching with my mom and my grandma. It was my mom's idea, all in the same spot because the 3 generations of us are like pinned together. And then also my mom was like, if you look at it, because at that time I had just started like getting into like adulthood and like doing shit. And she's like, you're going to go out and live your life and you'll look at it and you'll think safety first.
Oh my God.
Anyway, that's so mom.
That's such a mom thing though.
My mom and I also have some matching oranges because we moved to Florida together. I have a matching number 3 with my cousin because this is super cheesy. But if you ever watched NCIS, Gibbs, Mark Harmon, the main guy on the show, has like these rules that he gives his agents. And that's like his duty, his mission in life is to give these rules that he has created to his agents. Wow, such an ego. But her and I loved that cheesy crime show. And rule number 3 is never be unreachable. And her and I got that whenever we realized we were like never going to live in the same city again. Cause we're the closest in age out of all of our cousins, the only 2 girls, same middle name. And we rely on each other a lot for that. And then I also have a matching ice cream cone with one of my friends. He lives out in LA or Las Vegas now, hard to keep track. But we used to dance together and I used to babysit him and his younger sisters. And so we got matching and we would always go get ice cream together. So we got matching ice cream cones. I have, oh my God, I'm really a slut. I have a matching Christmas tree with my brother because our dad loved Christmas. And so we both got a matching Christmas tree. And I think that's all of them. We're gonna leave it. That's all of them.
I love that though, because I'm like, the thing is, like, my family, none of them are tattooed. Like, at least like my immediate family, none of them have tattoos. So I'm like, why? And my parents are just like too fucking old to ever want one. And then I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think it's when you book with people, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's harder to do that here in New York. I would definitely get matching tattoos with like my work wife, but like she's also a tattoo artist, and that would mean we would have to find someone else to do the matching tattoos for us. There are a lot of trades that I've done that feel like matching tattoos to me, just because like there is that like the energetic exchange, right? But yeah, no, I was like, I wish I had some, but at the same time, I'm glad that I don't. A little because my Venus is just so like I would get so depressed every time I saw it, and if something happened, if I like lost that person, I'd be like, no,
yeah,
bad memories.
My Scorpio matching one, the girl and I don't talk anymore.
Yeah,
so it's done by a homophobe,
and you did want to get it covered
talk anymore. So it's like I also lied. I have 3 matching tattoos. I have a nice coffee cup. I have lots of beverages.
I was about to say a beverage hoe.
You're a beverage bitch.
And my brother and I are planning on getting, there's a painting of Castor and Pollux, and we're both sidereal Gemini rising. So I convinced him to get the tattoo with me, and we're going to go, I think, towards the end of this year and get it for his birthday.
Oh, so you're Gemini rising, both tropical and sidereal.
Both.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think my birth cert time gives, if I was born 2.5 minutes after my birth cert time, I'm Gemini rising, which like isn't that far off to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would change like every divisional chart, and like the Rahu thing wouldn't be as prominent. And I was like, I'm so nodal. It's like, so it's a struggle.
That's exciting though. Tattoos planned. I mean, I don't know, Krista, if you don't want to, that's cool, but we could totally get a matching tattoo.
I would get a matching to fuck it. Yeah, I'll do it.
Maybe Norwalk.
I'm not going to Norwalk this year.
Rip.
I know. Maybe if you
Rip.
come up to New York, I have
I
a
was
lot of
gonna
friends.
say we can all
You're-
just go to New York.
Well, that's true. Honestly, I have been meaning to go back to New York soon.
No, I mean, I'm
so-
holding like I'm trying to do more like IRL meetups with people locally, because there is like I feel like the astrology community before the pandemic was so strong here, and now it's kind of like tapered down a little bit, but yeah, I would love to have you all here. I have a fun apartment with my fun bratty dogs. The one was sleeping with me on the couch, and Mayo makes an appearance in almost every single one of my consults in some way.
Honestly, yeah, let's elect it. Let's elect a bomb ass collab fucking matching tat. Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
I'm so into it.
That sounds
that
like
for us.
that sounds right up all of our alleys.
I mean, yes, we're all sluts for tattoos, so I understand completely.
And we're all sluts.
Period.
Yeah.
Sluts, period.
Sluts.
Sluts, period.
We're in
I
our
love
hot
that.
slut eras. Love that.
Actually, yes.
Another thing that I did want to mention is the like with polyamory specifically. That is my research for freedoms class, and
Oh,
the
wow.
specific signature that
Mm.
has come up for everyone's chart has been something related to Rahu or Ketu. So
Really? And then
yes.
you've also read my
Muy, muy interesante.
I mean, it's in both of yours. So like,
Yeah.
yes,
Period.
yeah, and like every
I'm a polyamorous slut.
my sample size of like 30, it's in like 27 of them.
Oh my god.
This one
Strong.
signature of like
The
Ra-
research is strong.
Yeah,
The
the
research is
research is strong. Usually I just tell people like the polyamory thing. I know this is just do another fucking episode.
It's on the list
It's
of
on the
ideas
docket.
for
It's
sure.
on the
Yeah.
docket.
It's the big one.
I just tell everyone like the first thing when I see a mutable Venus, especially a Gemini or Sag Venus, I'm like, you a hoe, and I love that for you. It's my favorite. I always tell my clients who have that, I'm like, you have my favorite fuck boy Venus placement, and I love that for you.
To be honest, I do have quite an astrologer good Venus and Gemini in the 7th house. It's super literal.
Oh, yeah. No, that's literal as fuck.
Super literal. There's no
That's-
hiding that one.
That's so funny because my mom is Venus and Sag. It's in the 6th, so like not very loud Venus, but she is a night chart. And she is, when I tried to explain to her like how polyamory like works in like the very most surface level, she was just like, that could not be for me. I'm like,
Well,
but
I was
you're
like-
she's also Gen X, so like that's just, you know, it's different for them.
Generationally, not the vibe for them.
Yeah,
No, maybe in the 70s, unless
Mhm.
she was born in the 70s, and that's different.
No, she was born in the 60s, so different.
Mm.
Different, but also no, she was too young to have the
Yeah,
free
she
love
was
stuff.
too young. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and my parents were not into that. I mean, it's funny because my parents, I actually inherited both of my parents' Venus. They have the same Venus. They were only born 2 months apart. But I also share their Venus sign, and I'm like, it is a lot. It's a lot.
So does one of them have Venus retrograde?
Wow.
I think so. Yeah.
Because that's a
Um,
long time for Venus to be in
yeah.
one sign.
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah, no. So both of them have the same Venus sign. They were born 2 months apart. Exactly.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, because one of them was born in September, the other one was born in November. And yeah, it's just funny how like family astrology is also pretty literal. But my
yes.
Venus placement is definitely not like a slutty Venus placement. I just think it's like,
Yeah, I
I
have
think-
Venus in Capricorn. Tell me about it.
yeah, true. It's a lot, but no, the Rahu thing checks out.
Rahu. He's like, give
Rahu.
it all to me.
I want it all. I'm greedy.
I
This
love.
This is hilarious.
love.
Actually, I think it's funny. Speaking of polyamory and like kinky stuff and like also like free love shit and being a slut, it's funny because there is, and wrapping this full circling into tattooing, there is an orgy that's happening, or a play party that's happening this weekend. And I'm not going because I just get overwhelmed. And I'm also seeing someone I like this weekend. I'm traveling out of the city to see someone I like, and I'm seeing. And they actually asked if we could go to this, and I was like, hell no, like, what happened the last time we tried to go to these. But there is a tattoo artist at this one. And they're going to be giving slutty flash. The play party, like the club that I'm like a member of, downstairs they have like, and I'm really bummed I'm not going because I want to get a tattoo, but they have a neon sign of like bunnies fucking, like it's just like bunnies like fucking, it's just the outline of them. And so like one of the flashes for their sheet is the bunny fucking sign, and I'm like, fuck, that would be so
That would be
cute.
so good.
That's
I would
so
love
cute.
that. But yeah, I guess like orgies can have everything. You can get a tattoo at a play party. It's
you can
OSHA
get your
safe.
Truly, you can get a tattoo, you can get your chart read, you can have it all done at an orgy, baby.
I mean, the thing is, we're not allowed to have our phones. That's one of the rules, unless you're in the foyer. But it's funny to have like reading people's charts at like a party, and like just asking them what their big three is. Like, as long as I know that, I can say so much. Even if I just know they're rising, they're just like, what the fuck, like people be like, what the fuck is happening in the stars? And I'm like, well, tell me you're rising.
What's your
rising? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's funny, and that it has everything.
Truly has everything. So I guess just to wrap it up, to conclude, do either of you have like concluding thoughts about tattoos that you wish to give? Anything that you wish to maybe even just like come back to that we talked about? Anything you wish to share or say?
For me, it's like it's kind of like the whole thing of like tattooing and correspondences and like assigning things. It really just depends on the person. It really just depends on what's in your chart. Obviously, there are like very specific things that I think belong to tattooing, like Rahu now, Mars and the moon. But I still think it's like a very beautiful and individualized experience that can also be communal, right? We share this love of tattooing. And yeah, that's, I think, the wrap up on that topic. And if you're ever in New York or want to visit and travel, my collaborator and I do Cosmic Catharsis as a collaboration. We open our books every 3 months, and I give you a birth chart reading, and my collaborator takes a prompt and narrative from what I'm trying to give them, and they will make art out of it. And I did a talk about that with tattooing and collaboration for clients, and also like beginning astrologers at QAC, and that will be up on my site for purchase sometime soon. And then I also do a lot of in real life meetups, and I'm working on a lot of really cute events. I don't know when this episode's going out, but like I have a bunch of events happening next week. So this will probably be not out by then. But if you did listen and you did join, then that's really cool, because I'm doing readings at an Astro drag show with Nova Network in New York City on Monday, Divine Horoscopes. So I'll be one of the readers
Astro
there.
drag show. That's amazing.
Yeah,
Let's go. Come through.
Host it. Come through, come up. And then I am doing a little Astro hangout this weekend with a bunch of BIPOC astrologers and like people from Nova Network, which is cool.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I doing anything? I mean, the podcast.
Or you can just wrap up thoughts first. Yeah, you can just wrap up thoughts first before you dive in.
Wrap up thoughts. This is amazing. I love you both. I'm glad we got to talk about this. I'm glad that you both are now with me in that Rahu is tattoos.
Yeah.
I'm
now we'd have to get Rahu tattoos.
Yeah, I'm gonna
honestly that should be the matching tat.
Yeah.
Something like a dragon or a serpent or something.
Then I can't be like, I can't pretend I do not see it anymore. I have to see it.
We're gonna love the notes. Oh, we're gonna love
it's actually notes. Funny. Whenever, this is not a concluding thought, this is just a random brain thought, but I actually have this like serpent tattoo that like wraps around my whole arm. And I literally was looking at it the other day and I was like, Huh.
Where is he?
Wow. Like,
Yeah.
because especially because basically the head and the tail of it are like on the same plane. So like even though it wraps and winds all the way around my arm, like the head and then like the tail are essentially like right in the same like plane. And I was like, wow, the head and the tail. And I had like this whole thought about it the other day. Not a coincidence at all.
Yeah, all hot bitches have a snake tattoo.
Yeah, we all have snake tattoos.
It's honestly the sign of a bad bitch. Like it really is.
I have this and I have an Asclepius, the rod of Asclepius tattoo.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
Asclepius is also love.
We love.
Oh, yes. Honestly, doesn't get enough hype. And that has actually been like a tattoo that I've been really like wanting to get because I pray more to Asclepius than I think probably anybody else. Maybe it's because I'm so Mars and because I'm always in bad.
So Mars.
It's because I'm so Mars and I'm always ill or sick or sore or something. And so I literally, and I started, I won't say who, but because it's personal, but somebody would just had like a very serious family member going through some health things and like was telling me about it. And I was like, all right, I'll like include them in like my like daily Asclepius ritual. And no fucking joke, a week later, they were like, they had a miraculous recovery. Every doctor was like, this was not supposed to happen. And I was like, I'm not taking credit. I would just like to say that I helped.
We did a lot of Asclepius workings at Norwalk, the house that I was staying in with those astrologers. None of us got the
not got the vid.
Yeah.
No one got the vid in the house, and we had a couple of people over too, which was, interesting to have, like having, everyone has their hangouts, but none of us got the Rona. But we also like hung out at our house mostly during free time, so that's probably why.
But also Asclepius.
Also Asclepius. Don't sleep on Asclepius stuff. Like I have the rod of Asclepius because it's the proper symbol for medicine.
100%.
Not the caduceus or whatever. That's for like EMTs and emergency medicine.
100%. Put some respect on their name.
Yeah. So put like Asclepius, rod of Asclepius. Love it. I can't believe I also, because I do work with Asclepius too. I was like, I can't believe I have him tattooed. And that was my second or third tattoo ever.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, John, you were wrapping up. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. No, yeah, this was amazing. I'm glad we did this.
No, there's some fun.
As far as things that I'm doing,
promote yourself, baby. Plug.
The pod Triplicity comes out at least once a month, generally speaking.
Yes, and we love Triplicity on this pod, like pod to pod love for Triplicity.
And I mean, this is an open invite to either of you, but if anybody wants to be a guest host for one of the like solar season forecasts, let us know. We love Zach's been on the past few because he's staying with me. So but we love having guests, so if either of you want to come on at any time, please let me know. We are in talks of planning like a summer thing that I don't want to like reveal too much about because I don't want it to like it's very in the beginning stages. But yes, keep your eye out for a summer astrology activity run by
an activity, perhaps a shindig.
Activity.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still doing Jyotish readings. I love doing Jyotish readings. If you have not done a Jyotish reading,
John's amazing. John's amazing.
John's
wonderful.
The Jyotish reading, it's so fucking good.
It's so fucking good. Yeah, I fucking love it. I think it's like my calling. So I'm so glad that I get to do it and get them now. My prices are still at student rate because they won't be for a while.
That part.
I also love electing tattoos. Still doing
amazing.
Love electing tattoos. So fun.
That's actually something we should totally mention. Like, because you officially like offer that to people. Like it's for real.
Tattoo elections, yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to elect for people is to get their tattoos done.
I've elected a couple of them. I don't like offer it though publicly because I don't like electing for people really that much. I'm super selfish. I went to like all this work to learn electional and I'm like, I would like to use this for me, myself, and I.
For me, myself, and I. Yeah.
For me, myself, and I. And occasionally some of my like returning clients that I work with a lot, like I'll elect for them and be like, okay, do this, and that. But not just but I'm not like, I'm so not like a person who's like, hire me for elections. I'm literally like, yeah, go to John and Drew. Thank you. I like it, when people come to me and they're like, hey, can you just like elect for this? And I don't know their natal chart. I'm like, please go.
Oh,
like,
yeah, no,
I don't
you
know
have,
them at
you
all.
have to do an election for me. Like you need to give me your natal. I
You
cannot.
need to give the
I do
natal.
not do
Right.
blind elections.
I
That's
was like,
Oh,
you
for
need
sure.
to do it. It needs to be rooted to the chart, I think, especially for something
Yeah.
like a tattoo. Like
Absolutely.
it has to be rooted to the chart.
like
Sorry.
a bare minimum. I have to know where the moon is in your chart. Like absolute
Bare
bare
minimum.
minimum. I have to know your
Yeah.
moon sign and if it's like where it is in the perfection, ideally. But like I just
Yeah. And so that's why I'm always like, oh yeah, John and Drew do that. I'll do that if I know you, but no.
Yeah.
But it's
But I was like,
super
yeah,
fun.
we're all booking for stuff, which is
we're
cute.
all booking and we're
Yeah, I
all
don't-
fucking good at what we do.
That is
yeah.
another thing, as anybody who has listened to this pod already would know, that I only invite people on my pod that I fucking believe in, that I know are good at what they do, that I adore personally.
No,
And
that's
so I
real.
just want, I want all of you to know how much I personally greatly respect John and Christa for coming on and talking about this
thank
subject,
you.
because it is such a divisive, polarizing topic. Like we've talked
Mhm.
about, you know, it is something that people have opinions about. And so naturally, I'm going to want people that are well-versed in that and have their own opinions to come on and intelligently and brilliantly talk about it. So I'm very grateful that both of you have come on and talked about this with me. And I
Thanks
hope
for
that
having us.
Really,
yeah. I hope that anybody who's listened, if you have a tattoo, maybe this has given you more perspective on everything that it means to you or could mean to you. And if you don't have any, honestly, I would be so fucking surprised if anybody is listening to this and doesn't have a single tattoo. You're
missing out.
Yeah.
Rahu's knocking on the door. He's saying hi.
Rahu's coming.
Rahu's coming for you.
Coming to eat your ass up, baby.
Yummy, yummy.
So true. Okay. Thank you so much for being here and talking with me about this. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for listening or watching, whether you are listening to the audio version on one of the platforms, if you are watching the video on Spotify, thank you so much for that. Thank you for being you and for being funky. And I will see you next time our fates weave together.